Welcome back, everyone, to the W Sports Podcast. We are live. It is December 11th, and man, the sports world is on fire right now, whether it's referees, baseball contracts with so much money deferred. We're going to talk about it today. So, myself, Jimothy, alongside, as always, is the best co host in the business, Tubby. Welcome back to the show.
What is up? I mean, we got some stuff to talk about this week.
We do. And we had a couple extra videos that were out this week on the social medias. So, one, thank you everyone for checking us out on social media and following. We greatly appreciate it. And it helps
Yeah.
you stay up to date of when we kind of have last minute changes. I know this week we were recording about 20 minutes early. That's just with a weird schedule. But we also had some big news about the Oklahoma Sooners. And this is some Oklahoma Sooner fans here at this podcast. So, we're going to talk about it a little bit real quick. We got Danny Stutzman, who pump faked us, as you said in the text message, and he is coming back and helping rep the Sooners as they make that transition to the SEC, of course, with Billy Bowman. How big of a statement and news is this for the Sooners?
I mean, it's massive for Oklahoma going forward your first year into the SEC. I mean, you got your two leaders on the defense back. You know, we talked about this, and we're like, we thought it was going to be vice versa at first. We thought Bowman was going to enter the draft. We thought Stutzman would stay. Well, then it turns out it was the reverse for a little bit, and it was true. Everything that came out, him talking to Venables and him telling Venables, hey, yeah, I am going to the NFL draft. I'll, announce it when I do. That was all true. It wasn't, fake news that came out or whatever. His dad was on the radio show this morning and was like, yeah, no, we were all prepared for it. And then he kept on having some doubts, and he said, I told him, if you have 1% doubt that you would regret not going back, you can't go to the NFL with that 1%, doubt, or that regret. And so he decided to come back. And so you get two massive players back on that defense heading into your first year of the SEC.
Yeah, and this is Brent Venables right there, feeling like he just got a 5-star recruit coming back for a year.
Yeah.
Or a transfer portal, acquisition that already knows the system. This is a big get. And I think it really helps the Sooners going into the next season. One Sooner in Billy Bowman, obviously staying as well. Transfer portal is wide open. And Dillon Gabriel, the former Sooner, has now already decided that he is going to be in Oregon next year. I feel like you're repping the Oregon Green today on the podcast.
I guess maybe I am. I mean, maybe showing a little bit of support to, I think people don't realize, especially OU fans, what Dillon Gabriel meant to the program these last 2 years. With everything that had happened with Lincoln Riley leaving, losing 30-something transfers, plus a bunch of guys in, recruiting classes and stuff like that, they were on the outs. Caleb took so long to decide whether or not he was going to come back to Oklahoma. Took a couple months, and a lot of the quarterbacks had started already committing to other schools, enrolling, and if they miss out, I mean, one day late, we don't see Dillon Gabriel, and we honestly are probably in a way worse position than we are now with this program than we would be, because who would be the quarterback? I know people are like, oh, well, it's Oklahoma. They would have been able to go out there and get you a quarterback. But would you have been able to go out there and get you a quarterback who I think got snubbed? That wasn't a top 10 Heisman guy this year with the numbers he put up. I think it's absolutely crazy that he wasn't in the top 10.
Yeah, I think he would have had he not had that loss to OK State. I think that's what ultimately did him in. But yeah, you're definitely right.
Yeah, and so he came in a moment where Oklahoma, they need someone to steady the boat, and you get this big, player that has played multiple years, all these snaps at UCF, and he comes in, you get that veteran leadership, and he steadied the boat for Oklahoma in that rocky moment. And all those people that, the last 2 years we've been, chirping at that you need to get off the guy's back for what he, all he did was put Oklahoma on his shoulders, because last year, if we didn't have him, there's no way we're winning 6 games.
Yeah.
We ain't seeing a bowl game. We're looking at 3 wins, 4 wins, maybe at the best. And that's maybe at best if Davis Bevel would have been ended up being the starting quarterback at that point. And all he did was this year turn around and put up massive numbers. And so as much as I still have a disdain for Oregon for everything that happened, I will never forget what happened, with the whole onside kick thing. I think it's awesome for him to be able to go to the school that he looked to as, a young kid because of Marcus Mariota from Hawaii, idolized Marcus Mariota, I'm gonna go wear the number 8. And the best part about it is
Oh, you're already going to say
week one. Week 1
at Hawaii,
I mean,
back in his home state. I think it's going to be pretty cool. It's really a great storybook finish, like for his college career. As hopefully this year, I think Oregon has every opportunity to compete for a bowl game, or not a bowl game, obviously a bowl game, but a playoff spot next year, especially with 12 teams. To see that run would be a huge spot for him to start at UCF, have the success, have the injuries, go to a program like Oklahoma, and have a really challenging season where it's 6 and 7 transitions, new head coach, all this stuff to steady the ship, like you said, to ultimately put Oklahoma on his back and to absolutely play his brains out, and then to be able to transition back into another program like Oregon, where he's going to see hopefully some success and a healthy into his career. I don't know. It's a great storyline, and to be able to play in his home state in his last season is going to be a really cool spot.
Yeah, I think it immediately puts him as the best quarterback in that conference. You look at the guys that are leaving and what is left there. I mean, yeah, Drew Allar has a lot of upside. McCarthy has a lot of upside, but we're talking about best quarterback in that conference.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I don't think it's anywhere close that Dillon Gabriel is the best quarterback in that conference immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of what will happen in that conference of who's the best quarterback, obviously you mentioned Aller, but JJ McCarthy. What if JJ McCarthy doesn't come back? What if he rides off into the sunset if Michigan can win it all? That will change a little bit. But Jaden Daniels did win the Heisman Trophy. No other Big Ten quarterback really in the conversation. Marvin Harrison didn't get a single first place vote, which was kind of too bad. I get it, but come on, just one, right? The best wide receiver should have got one. But big surprise for you that Daniels won.
No. This is a guy I've been riding with for a couple of years. I've been on the Jaden Daniels train for a while, and to see him, get where he is, especially, I think it makes it so much better because that final moment he had at Arizona State where he has his teammate, former teammates cleaning out his locker, like, oh man, this guy's a bum. He wasn't good anyways, and you go out there to win the Heisman, your final year in college, just kind of caps it all off, and hats off to him for the season he had. And yeah, I think he absolutely deserved it. Record aside, 3 losses, but you lost to 3 really good teams.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people were upset with that. Like, oh, you can't, he lost 3 games. He can't win the Heisman. I understand that idea behind it, but I don't agree with it because without him on that team, I mean, that team is just putrid. I mean, I don't know who their quarterback would have been if he wouldn't have been there, but they are not winning nearly 9 games.
Yeah, Nussmeier is a good backup quarterback, but we saw what he could do in the SEC championship game last year. Whenever Daniels got hurt against Georgia, he came in and that offense was way worse, and he wasn't able to move the football. And you can't say and for some reason, wins are part of this. It is an individual award. This isn't a team award, and no one had problems with Lamar Jackson winning it back, was it 2016, 2017? They had 3 losses. So, I mean, you can't be upset with one and be okay with the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how that works.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I did like Tim in the chat did agree. And what's up, Tim? Welcome back. You have a subliminal message to support Oregon.
I mean, I will support Dillon Gabriel. I will not support the Oregon Ducks.
That's fair. Yeah, but I will be hoping he succeeds.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a big time. I mean, this is the week where you have all the bowl games are going to start back up, so you're going to get to watch some more college football. Did you watch the Army-Navy game?
I did.
Okay. Did you see that because of the safety, it hit the over?
Yes, I saw that.
Could you imagine being like, yeah, they got to stop. I took the under and then the safety. So
safety, yeah.
So it's pretty great. Good game, though. I mean, it was a classic Army-Navy game.
Yeah, it's a game. Like I said, it's one of those games, don't matter what the records. Yeah, they both have the same record or how the teams are playing. You never know what's going to happen in that game. Mm-hmm. And it was the typical Army-Navy, just hard-nosed, good defense, triple option running teams. And
Navy passed quite a bit. I mean, at least
they did.
Well, quite a bit.
I think they're transitioning a little bit out of that since Ken, I'm not going to try to pronounce the last name.
Yeah.
Has, isn't there now. You got a new head coach. So maybe they're going to try to throw that into the system a little bit more. But still, it's one of those games that even if you aren't rooting for anyone, it's still one of those games you kind of watch because it's just such a classic game.
Oh yeah. Well, now you got bowl games this week. Any of the? Did you fill out a Bowl Mania thing?
I haven't yet.
So you still have a little bit of time. We did one last year. Here's the thing: it's so hard with all the guys who opt out, who aren't going to play, all these different players. To me, it's just so hard to even consider. Like, how in the world are you supposed to pick these games with any sort of confidence? I definitely, this is not a betting podcast, but if you were a betting team, I don't know how you'd be comfortable put money on any of these games.
No.
But the first one is 10 a.m. on Saturday, Ohio versus Georgia Southern. Make your pick real quick. This is the first one.
Georgia Southern. Give me Georgia Southern. I don't know if they've lost. I know they did lose a wide receiver, a pretty prominent wide receiver, but
yeah,
I mean Georgia Southern's been a good team, and so
Ohio, a MAC team 9-3. So take that for whatever it is. I think Georgia Southern and those teams that are down there in the South, like the SEC, not the SEC, but they're down there in the Sun Belt. They just play different brands of football. I think they should win.
Yeah.
I did fill one out, but yeah, I have no idea. No idea what it is.
I think the Kansas UNLV game will be a good one. You got two high-powered offenses. I think that's going to be
again. Daniels isn't obviously probably playing, but
but I think that's going to be a good, interesting game. To if you're a fan of offenses. I mean, we saw what was Arkansas, Kansas last year. That high-powered, Kansas come back from the big deficit, and then it's just like triple overtime. And I think that we may be in for another good game like that.
Yeah. The other one that's this weekend, New Mexico State has a chance to get to 11 wins. I think that is absolutely crazy. Headed into the next week is when you'll start to see some of the other games, the bigger ones, the ones I think people feel a little bit more. But it's going to be nice to have college football the next couple of weeks, even though they're bowl games. Tim did mention in the chat that Army beat both Navy and Air Force. So what a year for Army to be an Army fan. And they got to 6 wins. So pretty good. It's also to answer the question, Gabriel is not playing in the bowl game, at least for the Sooners. I can't imagine he played for Oregon. Bo Nix is still, I think, trying to decide if he's playing. I don't know.
Bo is playing.
Okay, that's just a classic Bo Nix move right there. That's a good move. I like it.
Yeah, because for the life of me, I've absolutely spaced out on who they're playing. Liberty, aren't they? They're playing Liberty. Yeah, and that was
they're like smack Liberty out of this. If I was me, if I was Oregon.
Yeah. Jamie Chadwell was like, man, we were hoping he wasn't going
to play. At least they're honest, 100%.
Yeah.
Quincy in the chat, he said
Quincy.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, man. Hope you're doing okay. It's been a tough go for Navy the last couple of years in this game.
Yeah. I mean, they had like a 16-year win streak, then they've lost 4 out of the last 5 out of the last 6, something like that.
Why they had a new head coach this year.
Yep.
So it's crazy to think. We started the year. Remember, the very beginning of the college football season, week 0 was Notre Dame versus Navy in Ireland, and then we're ending it Army versus Navy, and both sides of it, Navy losing in that first one. So they've definitely improved with this system. They've got more comfortable with this new coach. But I think for Navy, Army's got to watch out because next year Navy might be a little bit more into the game, more into the system of what they're wanting to do. So, a lot of bowl games, but more importantly, a lot of transfer portal news coming out over the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned with the W Podcast. We're going to keep you up to date, and we're going to have the conversation going. So,
and there is one massive thing that dropped today, and it doesn't have to do with the transfer portal. It has to do with the recruiting. So if anyone that is up to date with the recruiting, Steve Wiltfong is the guy. If he drops a prediction, it's like 98% chance that it's going to happen. Yeah. And Dylan Raiola, Dominic Raiola, center for the Lions, his son is the number 1 quarterback in the country. He was committed to Nebraska, flipped to Georgia. Now they said Nebraska has made a very strong push in that he is flipping back to Nebraska. So,
oh man,
yeah,
Nebraska's on the move. I think people are going to be surprised in the Big Ten next year for what that team could potentially play. I'm going to say 9-win season. We'll see. I don't know.
What they just got crystal ball for Kyle McCord also. So
they got what?
They got a crystal ball, prediction that Kyle McCord will be going to Nebraska.
I'll do the W Sports Podcast first. Okay. That's all
I'm saying.
Did you see Sims? Didn't he transfer to Miami? Sims?
Yeah, I saw that that's where they're more than likely was going to end up.
How is that any different than Tyler Van Dyke?
It's way worse.
I guess he's worse. It's just both of them are turnover machines. Miami doing Miami thing.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah. So what? Oh, sorry, just got random here. All right, so let's go ahead and we're gonna get to some of the NFL news because we're gonna talk about that. But there's one massive bit of news we got to talk about in the baseball world. You guessed it, Shohei Ohtani just signed a 10-year deal?
10-year deal.
10-year, $2 million per year deal. That's what we're learning today, is that the deal is essentially $2 million per year with $68 million per year deferred. What in the world? Cheat code.
Man, the craziest part is that this was all Ohtani's idea.
It's a terrible idea.
He said, basically, he said, I don't care about the money, right now.
Yeah.
And I'd rather win. And so it frees up the Dodgers where their collective balance, tax is way lighter than it would be. So now I feel like they are almost the front runners for Yamamoto now, because he grew up a Dodgers fan. He says he wants to play with the, Japanese star in the major leagues. Well, just so happened we have the best one now on the team.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, big surprise.
And it's just the whole situation. What was it? Friday, Saturday with the Toronto. The Toronto thing. He's on a plane to Toronto. It's about to be done, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, he's actually at home still on the couch in Santa Monica, and ends up being the guy from Shark Tank. Was the guy that was on the airplane.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, and the air traffic control guy was like, oh, welcome to Toronto. Whoever may or may not be on this airplane, we welcome you to Toronto. And then he's like, I appreciate the welcome. I live here. Yeah. And if they want to, and he's like, if they want to pay my son to play baseball, $700 million to play baseball, I'm pretty sure he can, do that. But yeah, they got a lot of people's hopes up. And the guy from the Dodgers that broke the story that he was going to the Jays, turned around and doubled down on it the next morning. Like, oh, it just hasn't happened yet. It takes a long time for these things. And then literally 20, 30 minutes later, Shohei tweets out, puts on Instagram, yeah, I'm going to the Dodgers. And yeah, as a Dodgers fan, I was like, whoa, $700 million, that's insane. And then the way they structured it, it was just like, okay, we're good to go. Because that deferred money doesn't count against the CBT, the collective balance tax, after the 10 years, and it doesn't affect the payroll either.
Yeah, I think you're going to start to see a lot of teams try to take. I'm going to say this is a cheat code. It sounds really good in the short term, especially these big money teams. The Royals or the A's do it right now, but you're going to potentially see some of these. The Yankees, the Dodgers, the Mets are going to look at doing this. Obviously, the Nationals. I mean, they've done similar stuff in the past when they get back to it, but I don't know. It's a cheat code. It's 100% a cheat code the way they're saying
it is. And it's all because of the collective bargaining agreement. And I know teams wanted to change this, but the collective bargaining agreement says it's unlimited in the amount of money that you can defer. Mm-hmm. And so I imagine probably the next collective bargaining agreement, it's going to be agreed upon by most people that they're going to have to put a limit on that, because I know they've deferred several $1 million for Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman also. So it's one of those, it's a loophole basically to go, well, we can keep our tax penalty down and we can just sign a bunch of people.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's going to really make that push, because players won't do that. The players are going to want as much money as possible. And if it means that I have to defer it, why not? Like getting paid forever. And then owners, it's like, I think you're going to see some of the smaller market owners teams the ones that are going to have to make the biggest push.
That's what I figure is there's going to be so much of these lower market teams that are going to team up, and it's basically going to be like, well, we ain't budging if you ain't budging, and someone's going to give, and I would imagine eventually there'll be a cap on it.
Yeah. I don't think we talked much about 10 out of 10. 1 out of 10? Are you surprised?
No.
Okay.
I knew he was going to LA. That whole smoking show, the way he had said, I want this to be as private as possible, until he came out and said, I'm going to the Blue Jays. I didn't believe any word of it, because yeah, one guy reporting, yeah, he's going to the Blue Jays. It'll be done. They're even setting up a press conference tonight at 6 o'clock and all this stuff. And then everyone else is like, what are you talking about? We have no confirmation that this is happening.
Mhm.
And then it comes out, oh yeah, he's sitting at home. The guy was still like, oh yeah, no, he's still going to Toronto. And I was just like, dude, you're just digging yourself in that hole as much as you can, because at this point you should probably just admit that you were wrong.
Yep.
And then afterwards too, he's like, well, we still stand by it. And well, I'm like, yeah, you just lost a lot of credibility with a lot of Dodgers fans, because this is one of the big Dodger like blogs, whatever
Mhm.
pages that cover just strictly the Dodgers, and they're like, yeah, you just lost a lot of credibility with a lot of people.
Yeah. So great question here in the chat. Well, at the end of 10 years, will he be 700 million redshirt? No. Also, side note, how did it feel typing all those zeros, Tim? That is a lot of zeros to see. It's just confusing. But he gets the last 6. He gets 20 million, which is insane, between now and 2033's end of season. 2034 to 43, the next 9 years, he will get $680 million.
And see, and the thing was, he was so smart about it, because he'll be 39 at that point. More than likely, won't be in the major leagues. And on top of that, if he's not living in California, he ain't paying those California taxes on that $68 million.
It's true. And at that point, it'll be worth like 10 million.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's the only thing I'm always worried about it, but it'll be fine. The baseball news is you're going to start to see more people sign. We did have one trade. I don't think we talked about it with the Juan Soto thing. We talked about the possibility, but that actually happened. This is a revamped outfield for the Yankees going into this year that looks like they finally have a little bit of help for Aaron Judge, the former MVP. Just incredible. Only the offense that they had. Now they have Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Stanton as DH when he's healthy, and then Alex Verdugo. Grade this outfield unit.
I mean, I think the outfield is really solid. I would say the outfield is probably one of the best in the major leagues, because Verdugo really played a lot better over the last couple of years than he did the first few years in Boston. I would say this is easily an A, one of the better outfields in baseball, because you got Aaron Judge, you got Juan Soto, who's one of the young premier players, and you got Alex Verdugo, who's just a rock solid player the last few years. So they've helped themselves out that way. But man, the Padres, if any of those guys in that Nationals trade pop off and become superstars, you just absolutely just made one of the worst trades in baseball history.
It's not setting up well for anything that they did, and I don't know that what they got back. I don't know that what they got back was enough to warrant. I mean, obviously, we have hindsight now, and they didn't make it. They made a run last year in the playoffs, or 2 years ago in the playoffs now, and then last season to finish barely above 500. It was a disaster of a season altogether. They were out of it for almost, way too early. It doesn't seem like it was good, and they were cash poor at the end of the year, having to take out loans to make paydays. I mean, everything went wrong for this deal.
Yeah, and that's the bad part, is that you chose to pay a guy like Xander Bogaerts over Juan Soto. Because you went out and paid Bogaerts so much money, way over what anyone else was asking for a guy that was in his 30s. And, he was still a good ball player, but you knew that he was going to tail off. And he came out scorching hot last year and then just absolutely tailed off the rest of the year. And I know the big thing why they didn't get a big return is because Scott Boras is his agent. Boras came out and said, we ain't signing a contract extension. He will be a free agent after this year. And so they got a decent haul back of, young pitchers who have some potential upside, but you're talking about a Yankees farm system that's probably ranked closer to the 20 spot. And these guys were like 9, 10, 15, 17 in their farm system compared, more than likely that's barely, depending on who your farm system isn't cracking most teams' top 10, top 15 players.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a great look. It's fine. I mean, it's a big win, I think, for the Yankees. The Yankees are going to have no problem re-sign him, and, he'll stick around, and he's going to have a short left field to hit home runs out of. It should be a good look. I don't think he's going to be one of those players that doesn't handle the pressure well. So I think it'll be a good fit long term.
Yep.
So Cardinals did make a trade too. Got rid of Tyler O'Neill. Thank goodness. We don't need to talk a whole lot about it. I like who they got back. Mainly just Robertson because he's a strikeout guy.
Mhm.
His ERA and stuff like that did not look good last year. I'm not worried about that. But just
No.
looking at this stuff, he does have good stuff.
Yeah, and you needed bullpen help too. I mean, so yeah,
Yep.
I think it was a solid trade all around. I mean, you get rid of O'Neill, free up the outfield a little bit, get you a good solid, bullpen arm with the guy that has some potential to be a decent bullpen arm, in a few years.
Yeah, right there with you. All right, well, if you're ready to move to the NFL, we can kind of continue on.
Let's do it.
Big news. Another quarterback got hurt. Who's surprised?
Which one got hurt? No, I was kidding. Yeah.
I know Trevor Lawrence did play, which I was surprised by. Josh Dobbs got benched. What were you saying?
I was absolutely surprised they played Trevor Lawrence.
I know.
It was the fact of the guys that they were playing. I mean, you're going against Myles Garrett.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He's probably the scariest guy on defense that you want to go against because the guy's just massive, and the way he moves, you got a hampered Trevor Lawrence trying to escape from him, and he took some shots in that game too. Yeah, you're lucky you got out of there. Yeah, you lost, but you're lucky you didn't lose more because of Lawrence trying to move around on that bad ankle, and plus he's got a bad knee also. Yeah, you're asking for trouble. But lucky nothing, more serious came of what happened there.
Yeah, he turned the ball over 3 times, was sacked 4 times. I mean, he was under pressure this whole game. 5 yards an attempt, had to pass the ball 50 attempts. It is a ton. Plus the 4 sacks. I mean, that's 54 times he dropped back to pass. It's a lot on a guy who's hurt. And then to get outplayed by Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Flacco has done better in 2 weeks than Deshaun Watson's done in a year and some change.
I mean, that's true.
Or maybe a full year.
Yeah,
we're getting close to a full year, maybe. I don't know, not even quite that because he only played like 7 games last year, and he only played like 3 or 4 games this year. So, golly.
Yeah, he had a QBR at 35. So all that said, 35. The Browns are 8-5. It's crazy. Jacksonville had a chance last week to be. What was it? They could have been 10-3 right now. And you look at turnaround, all of a sudden they're 8-5 after two tough losses. And not against bad teams or anything like that, just tough losses. So,
but you lost to Jake Browning and Joe Flacco.
Say what you will about Jake Browning, just looked like Tom Brady again.
I mean, Jake. I know. Everyone's dogging him. We even kind of took a shot at him last weekend at the end, and just so happened that night they were playing, and he goes out and just plays outstanding and played great again this week. So maybe, just maybe, their season isn't over like a lot of people thought.
Yeah, it would be absolutely nuts if they. I mean, the AFC has no quarterbacks right now. I mean, we'll get to some of the other ones right now, some of the best. It just feels like this is wide open right now. So maybe he can be the best of the worst or the worst of the best. I don't know what you want to say, but they've started to give the ball to Joe Mixon more, which I think helps. And maybe this is a learning year for a lot of these teams. Stop trying to throw the ball 54 times and, be consistent when you have a guy like Joe Mixon out there.
And they've even, got Chase Brown into the games more too. I mean, you watch Chase Brown, that dude just looks explosive. The way he caught that pass yesterday, took it, what was it, 53 yards, something like that, 73. Yep. Yeah. And just the speed, you're like, yeah, that's something different. Joe Mixon is not that what he used to be with the speed and the agility. He's kind of more of that bruiser type runner. And now you got the fast kind of scat back type guy in Chase Brown. I think they marry each other very well. And they have figured this out and go, okay, now it's opening up the game more for Chase Browning to find a T. Higgins and, Jamar Chase, and then Hudson has came out of nowhere, tied in and has had 2 really good, weeks in a row. So,
yeah. So I would love for us to try and name the quarterback for every AFC and NFC team. I can see, can you do it? Which one are you going to miss? Because you're like, oh, are they hurt still or not? But we don't need to play that game. That could be a frustrating game.
I mean, I think I could probably.
I think if anyone could do it, you could do it. Yeah.
But yeah, it just.
You want it.
I mean, the only one that I don't know, that probably wouldn't be so hard because he's probably the backup. I'm gonna say the Texans, but Davis Mills is the backup there. So I think I could get them all. I think it wouldn't be so hard. I mean, I'll just rip them off real quick. You
Okay,
got Allen, Zappy, you got Wilson, who's back in the lineup now,
that's true.
and you got Tua. There's the AFC East. So you got the South now. Trevor Lawrence did play. So you
He
got
did.
Trevor Lawrence, and if Lawrence is out, it's C.J. Beathard.
Uh-huh.
Then you got Garner Minshew, and you got Davis Mills, and you got Will Levis.
I like how you skipped over C.J. Stroud because he's in concussion protocol now. I mean, there's another.
Gotcha.
That's one of the 2 quarterbacks that got hurt this weekend. So
Yeah, and then north you've got Trubisky,
Yep.
Browning, Flacco,
Mhm.
and Lamar Jackson. And then out west you've got Mahomes, Aiden O'Connell, Russell Wilson, and Easton Stick.
Okay, so how many of those were starters at the beginning of the year? Two
Well,
in the
Easton. Yeah, so Easton Stick and Connell weren't. The 3 besides Lamar
yeah.
in the north weren't starters. Davis
Yeah.
Mills, Will Levis, Garner Minshew,
I think 5 of those,
Zappy. Yeah, Zappy wasn't a starter.
8, half were starters, half of them were, and some of them have lost their jobs.
Yeah, I mean Wilson's lost his job to 2 other guys, Trevor Siemian and Tim Boyle.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you've had 3 or 4 different quarterbacks for the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tannehill lost his job. Malik Willis lost his job.
Yeah. All right. So let's go to the NFC. We'll see how many were starters at the beginning of the year as well.
Ooh, this one might say so. We go to the East. You got Dak, Hurts,
Okay.
Hal. Then now you got Tommy DeVito.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the South. You got Ritter again, Carr, because he did play this week. And you have Bryce Young, Baker. And then you got Love, Fields, Mullins now. Nick Mullins came in for Dobbs, which I don't know if Mullins will stay. I think they may take a chance with Jaren Hall. And then you got Goff.
Get a chance with Jaren Hall at some point.
Yeah. Then you've got Locke started this week. Purdy, Stafford, and missing and then Kyler, which they were off.
Yeah. Wow. So the NFC has more of the starters still in the
Yeah.
game. But some of them have been hurt, including Kyler. Love was hurt for a couple. Just
Fields.
been hurt. Ritter's been hurt.
Ritter got benched.
Ritter got
Taylor
benched.
Heineke.
Purdy got hurt. Stafford got hurt. Geno just got hurt. Oh, there's 3 that got hurt.
Carr got hurt.
Dude.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
So yeah, it's wild. The quarterbacks this year it's one thing it's done, it's kept everyone essentially, except for a few teams, still in this year.
Yeah. Patriots are out. Titans are for sure out. I think the Raiders, you could say they're out, and so the Chargers at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Giants, Commanders for sure. The Bears are, I would say they're technically out. Panthers for sure. And then the Cardinals. Everybody else is still in, which is absolutely crazy with 4 weeks left.
Yeah.
4 left. No, 4.
4. Yeah,
Yeah,
4. Yeah, this is week 14.
Yeah. So that is absolutely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And one of which is the NFC South. Let's sit here for a second, because now the leader is the 6-7 Buccaneers. They've won this division before with a losing record. Can they do it again? They have the experience.
Yeah.
And Baker Mayfield.
I feel like right now you've got the best team available. Can we count on Ritter to win you games? I mean, you just proved. I mean, Baker, yeah, he took him 75 yards down the field, and he did it the first game too against the Falcons, and that's what's the sad part is he was able to do that the first game, but his defense was so bad they went back down the field, kicked field goal, and won the game.
Mm-hmm.
So they could essentially have a winning record right now if they wouldn't have blown that game. Carr's played just absolutely awful, and we know the Panthers have no shot. I mean, since they are eliminated. So yeah, I mean, they have every right to win this conference. It's just, will they? I think they will.
Nobody wants to.
No. I mean,
they're going to get to the winner of this division will host a game, and either the Eagles or Cowboys are going to go on the road.
Yeah.
So you tell me who wins this division when it's all said and done. 4 weeks left. Saints. They have Giants, Rams, Bucks, Falcons. How many wins?
So it's Giants, Rams, Bucks, Falcons. I think they'll lose to the Rams. I think they'll lose to the Bucks. I think they go 2-2. Yeah.
All right, there you go. 8-10. All right, moving on. We got the Falcons. Oh, Saints, of course. Bears, Colts, Panthers.
Ooh. That's a pretty easy schedule.
I know. Justin Fields, though. I mean, he's coming
Yeah,
around.
Fields has played good, but you got the Panthers in there, which that should be an automatic win. No offense, Tim. I know you're a big Panthers fan, but
That's fair.
yeah, that they have a very legit chance to go 3-1. If not, they still if they went 2-2, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, they had their running back to go 2-2 or 3-1.
Yeah.
So Tampa Bay, Packers, Jags, Saints, Panthers.
Oh,
It's
2-2. I mean,
it's not 2-2 on paper.
yeah. I mean, you're talking about a chance that you have 3 teams tied at 2-2,
Mm-hmm.
and possibility of each of these teams are 8 or
8 and
8
10.
9,
8 and 9.
8 9 at the end of the season. It just depends on how those conference games will work out. If they win, and who loses in those conference games. I mean, hopefully.
Right now, the Bucks have the tiebreaker of all of them.
Yeah.
For that. So.
Yeah. Man.
Go. The division
tricky.
wanted us to talk about, we just talked about.
Except for people that are in NFC South fans.
That's true. That's true. And how about this? In the chat, Quincy just asked, in the NFL, will not having your starting QB affect your team's chance to make the playoffs? The committee says no, it won't affect. Yeah, there's no. That's a great question.
Oh, gosh.
We should consider that at this point.
If that's the case, there's a lot of teams that are not in consideration for making the playoffs right now.
Yeah, just have 4 teams and say, you're welcome, world.
Yeah. Oh.
We talked about this team being the best in the league about a month ago, and since then they've had a bye week, but they have had a rocky go of it. The Lions are in control of this division right now with the Packers 2 games back, but right now, would you say that the Packers have a legitimate chance to catch up to a struggling Vikings team Lions team because the Lions are one of the Lions, and that defense has shown some major signs of weakness?
Yeah, I think the way the Packers have played right now, they absolutely, if they are able to sustain this, because they have a pretty easy schedule going forward, if they're able to sustain what they've done and the Lions keep having problems like they have had on the defense, I mean, I think it was Hutchinson had a sack yesterday, and it was like his first sack in the last 400 and some snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And then the biggest problem is what we praised Jared Goff for at the beginning of the year and at the tail end of last year was you're not turning the football over. And now we've seen a rash of turnovers, multiple turnovers each week for the last 4 weeks. That's becoming a problem, and it is putting his team in such big holes. I mean, they're lucky they beat the Bears a couple of weeks ago when he turned the ball over 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
If they keep going the way they're going, the Packers have every chance. I believe the Packers have a legit chance of winning out and getting to 11-6
schedule.
11 or yeah, and so they have a very winnable schedule, and the way they have been playing, they have a really legit chance. And if the Lions lose a couple, depending on how the conference stuff works out, and how the common opponents, whatever works out, they could potentially sneak in and win this conference. Because I don't know about the Vikings. It depends on what they're going to do quarterback wise. I mean, you just scored 3 points and somehow won an NFL football game.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the second week in a row. You're like, they scored 3 points. That's great. They lost. And then because the week before it was 6 points. You're like, oh my gosh, let me put up 6. Oh, they won.
Yeah. So I don't know how much of a threat they're going to be in that race, but you never know. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, so I think that the Packers have a legitimate chance. We'll see what happens, going forward. But yeah, it's definitely been a turn of events for the Lions, who, you said, they came out and we were like, man, this team, the way they played defense wise, been able to slow down, the way they were able to stop the run. And yeah, they've been able to still stop the run a little bit, but it hasn't been as staunch as it was the first like 6 weeks of the season. And now you're seeing the big liability in the secondary where they didn't spend the money like everyone thought they should, or the draft capital like everyone thought they, should. And you're starting to see teams be able to hit those big plays down the field.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's making the team look questionable. They have 2 games that are the tough ones as they go into the end of the season with 4 games left. The Lions, 2 against the Vikings. So that's already hard enough to beat your division opponent twice. This is a win. This is Nick Mullins, that team. So they might have a good shot there. But Broncos and Cowboys are the other 2 games. And right now the Broncos have snuck back into the playoff hunt, which is crazy to think this team is 2 games back of the 1 game back.
One game.
So they have a lot to play for. So I do think that you could see this come down to it. Right now, the biggest thing going for the Lions is their conference record. They have 3 conference games left. You think they probably could win 2 of those? That'll get them to 8 wins. I don't think that could be ultimately be the tiebreaker, especially if the Lions beat the Vikings twice. And that's the hard part. They need the Lions to only win 1 game and then them win out and then problem solved. You don't have to worry about a tie. So otherwise, I mean, I think that team could at 11 wins, you should get a wild card in the NFC. So this team, watch out. Jordan Love and the Packers, man.
I'm trying not to talk them up too much.
That's classic right there. Well, let's talk about this. You mentioned it already. Vikings win a thriller, 3-0. As a fan, if you're in the stadium and you see the field goal go through at the end, how are you happy? Does it matter? Are you embarrassed?
I mean, at that point, I don't know what I feel. I mean, yeah, you're happy. You're like, oh, we finally scored, and we have a good chance at winning this game. But we only scored 3 points. And the last 2 weeks, we have scored a total of 9 points. And then on top of that, your star wide receiver comes back from injury and then leaves in the first half. I mean, this team right now is just kind of a dumpster fire, honestly. And yeah, I think Jaren Hall has every right to start this game next week, or at least give him a shot. I mean, he came out and got to play a few snaps and turn around and gets concussion or whatever it was. I mean, there's a chance that Sean Mannion gets pulled up from the practice squad and gets a shot.
Gosh.
This whole situation is just kind of, I don't know. I would imagine Nick Mullins will probably get the start just because they'll go, okay, well, he came in during the, halfway through the game, so maybe he wasn't in the flow of things, and we'll give him a chance to see what he can do as starting wise. But man, it's ugly.
Yeah. Dobbs has been an absolute disaster. I mean, they thought, well, it's a couple bad games, go through the bye week, come back, it'll be fine. Sacked 5 times, 10 completions for 63 yards. It was terrible.
I mean, you had so much hope the first 2 weeks that he was there. I mean, come in, doesn't know anyone on the team. They have to learn his cadence on the sideline, know anyone's name, get the win over a tough Saints defense.
Mm-hmm.
And then get the next win. You're like, wow, maybe he's able to right the ship for them. And then it just kind of, ship started to sink real fast again.
Oh, yeah. And still, all that to be said, they're 7-6.
Yep.
And just won a game where they shut out the Raiders.
And I believe they're still 7-6 in the season in 1-score games. If I'm not wrong. I don't know what. It may not be that. Maybe 1 less, or maybe 6-6 or whatever, 6-5 or 7-5 or something like that. But pretty much
every game is 1-score game.
Yep.
Every single game.
And this is exactly what we were talking about at the beginning of the year. If they had exactly what they did last year, where they did the year before, where they, went basically 500 in 1-score games, we're talking about a team that doesn't make the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what's happening right now is, yeah, you got a winning record right now, but if you keep going the way you're going, you end up, 8 wins. Is that enough? 9 wins maybe be enough, depending on what happens with Seattle and a few teams behind you. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the playoff race right now is shaping up to the 7th seed right now is the Packers with 6-6, and they play tonight. Behind them is the Rams, Seattle, both with 6. The Falcons, obviously, Saints, It's weird to think that these teams could make a playoff run. The Bears with 5 wins,
Yeah.
and somehow DeVito and the Giants are 4-8 and still in the hunt.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams have played good football too. I mean, they just took the team that a lot of people thought looked like the best team in football to the brink, and it took them a punt return for a touchdown to win the football game.
In overtime, yeah.
In overtime, yeah. And it was probably questionable that it didn't get called back because there was a block in the back on the play.
Now, refs are all in the business of calling weird stuff these days. That's just what they're doing. Here's the thing. We're just going to talk about it. So, as a Chiefs fan, I'm frustrated at the call. I get it. Technically, he was lined up a little bit in the neutral zone. The next play, Von Miller's lined up across. I mean, he's a little offsides, no flag. You're telling me that you didn't see that one?
I'm just saying. Okay. The camera angle of which they're showing Von Miller offsides is literally 25 degrees behind the line of scrimmage. You can't tell whether or not he's on there. And then if you look at the picture, Creed Humphrey, the ball's not in front of him. He has already snapped the football.
He has already snapped the football, but he's also already moving. He was outside. That's what I'm saying.
You can't tell by that camera angle that everyone is showing.
Yeah,
that he is offsides because of if it's straight down the line, the way Tony's was, then and it shows that he's offsides, then okay. Why aren't you showing that then? If that's the case, like everyone's showing that one still, there has to be a camera angle down the line. And yeah, I get you're frustrated that that's how the game ends because it is frustrating. But if you're a Chiefs fan, the only people you have to be angry at is your wide receivers. Your wide receivers has pretty much took your team from being 11-2, where you have 5 losses. They've lost you 3 games.
Yep.
Tony's drop against the Lions, they return it for a touchdown, you lose the game. MVS drops one in the end zone against the Eagles, you lose the game. Tony doesn't line up on the right side of the football, and you lose the game.
Yeah. The thing that gets me, and I have a formula now for how you can become the greatest of all time at your position or just in the game. So football's a little hard, but just think about this. So to make it into the league, you have to have at least God-given talent. You won't make it to the top tier if you don't have God-given talent. You just can't. Right? So I can make it to the league with talent. How do I become the best at my position? I have to have a really great work ethic. I have to be disciplined, make sure I'm studying the film, improving, getting better. So you just have the smarts to go with it. And I would say that's one part of it. And the other part is game IQ. So you can not have the dedication, but you can have really good IQ. And so because of that, you can compensate a little bit for just, not being dedicated to your craft. You'll be really good for a while.
Yeah.
If all three of those for your whole career, you're probably going to go back down as most likely one of the top 10 people at your position over the career that you had.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you have one of those 3, you can make it to the league, which would be God-given talent, but you're not going to be known as the best. You're probably going to be known as a bust or, I think I got a piece, but he just never clicks or they never click, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to be the greatest of all time, here's that thing that's different from the top 10 at your position or top 5 at your position when it's all said and done to this person's the greatest of all time consideration is whenever the scales tip in your favor. So when everybody else, it's 50-50 if they make the shot, right? Make the throw. For you, it's 85-15. It's 90-10. There's something different because yours is it's just the scales are not tipped the same.
Yeah.
That is the difference. So here's my point. Kadarius Toney has only got God-given talent. Dude doesn't stay dedicated to the craft, doesn't have a good football IQ. We've seen it time and time again. I'm done. I saw the talent, the skill set's there. He doesn't have the other 2, and so you might as well he's a role player at best, move down the line, give me someone else that has the talent and has one of the other 2.
Yeah, and the thing is, there is video out that he did check with the ref, but he didn't really check with the ref.
He just pointed and didn't actually.
So he pointed while he's not set, points. kind of glances at the ref, turns and looks, and takes a half step forward. Doesn't make sure that he's good. And people are like, well, he checked. I'm like, nah, that's not how you check. You got to come set, check with the ref, and then he'll give you either back up or go forward.
Yeah.
And you didn't do that. And my thing is, you're looking at the football. At the snap, you're staring at the football. And you can't,
back a little bit,
Yeah, you can't tell that you're about a foot in front and you're almost standing right next to Von Miller.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, guy.
Yeah. So here's the problem the NFL has to figure out is that we're talking about refs again. And I know, both agreed, he should have, you can fix this whole thing with one scooch back and a point to the ref and acknowledge it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get that. We shouldn't be. We can't be talking about refs every single week. It's so annoying for multiple games, multiple bad calls. Today should have been whether the Bills come back and win this or not. There was still a minute left if that play stands, and Josh Allen had every ability to go down and win that game. But we should be talking about one of the greatest, wildest plays where everybody who's a Chiefs fan said, "Oh my gosh, no! What do you do?" Yes, I can't believe that just happened. That's what the NFL wants to talk about. That's what ESPN wants to talk about. Everybody, that is the storyline that plays and that helps people see the magic of sports. And instead, we're talking about a bogus offside. Not bogus. I mean, it is bogus. To call that in that moment is dumb. You don't call a pass interference on the last play. Don't call a ticky-tack 2 inches offside call in that moment without.
That's not 2 inches.
Hold on. Without a warning. No warning. And did you hear what Josh Allen said? So Josh Allen, did you see that Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes at the end of the game?
Yeah.
It was obviously a prolonged conversation. One that no one else heard in the moment until later. Josh Allen said, worst effing call of ever. Terrible call, is what he said. It's just the worst call I've ever seen. Josh Allen told that to him, which I would imagine that Patrick Mahomes reverse would have said probably the same thing. Like, hey, man, that's a terrible call. Sorry.
That was Patrick Mahomes who said that.
No, Josh Allen said that.
No, but they have a video. They have the face-to-face with him staring right at it. And Patrick Mahomes is hugging him. And as they're walking off, he goes, it's the worst effing call I've ever seen. And keeps walking and turns around and tries to say something again to Josh Allen. You could tell Josh Allen wanted no part of that situation because his face is like, what's going on? That was it was 100% Patrick Mahomes. You go back and watch the video.
I didn't watch it, but I was pretty sure it was Josh as well. Yeah. It's a dumb call, man.
But the thing is that this has been an emphasis that the NFL has put on this year.
How many offensive offside calls have they had this year?
11 compared to the last 2 years, where combined they had 3.
At what point in the last 2 seconds, the last 2 minutes?
And on top of that, if you're the Chiefs, this has to be a point of emphasis for the whole season with everything you went through with Jawan Taylor at the beginning of the year. You have to make sure you're in the right position. I get that, yeah, it is a call that doesn't get called a whole lot, but the NFL has made it a point of emphasis this year. And how, I don't understand is how they're like, well, you have to give them a warning. Okay, do you have to give the defense a warning? If they're offsides? No. So how is that fair to the defense that you're going to make it even more in favor of the offense if you're going to go, oh, hey, warning, next time your guy is offsides, I'm going to have to throw the flag. They don't do that for the defense. It's just an automatic flag. So why should they have to warn them, especially if you're wide receiver? And this is what the replay guy said. He's like, if it was inches off, it would be different. The guy was clearly almost his whole body was offsides because it's not the front of the football, it's the back of the football. And he's literally standing a good foot on the other side of the line. And as he's like, if it was inches, it would be different. And it's clearly not inches. It was basically the only thing that was onside was his back foot.
Oh, I don't necessarily agree with that part of it. But I will say you can't blame it on the refs to lose.
No.
And I stand corrected. It was Patrick Mahomes that said that, so that's my bad. Thanks for steering me in the right direction, Tubby. I always appreciate that. Tougher to swallow, just like the call was. It's just dumb. The NFL shouldn't want this. The NFL, I don't know what they had to do, but you got to fix it. This is not the only one that this has happened to.
No, and you don't want a game like that to end the way it does, especially with two, really good teams in the NFL. You don't want a game to be decided that way. Mm-hmm. But at that point, I just feel like it was so blatant, the offsides, that it was so bad. Like I said, if it was literally like they were trying to say it was mere inches, I would understand. But to me, the pictures, it doesn't look like mere inches. It looks like his back foot was literally the only thing that was on sides.
So
because
let me throw this out there. If it was the Super Bowl and it was, your team versus, I don't know, the Dolphins, and they called that offsides and it was 12 seconds left, touchdown, how upset are you at that call?
I'm not saying I'm not upset.
I know. I'm just asking.
I would be mad, but at that point, it's on that player. It is 100% not on the ref. It is 100% on Kadarius Toney for not making sure that he was lined up where he was supposed to be. And like I said, there's no way on earth that I cannot believe that he doesn't realize that he's that far off sides, where he's lined up, because it'd be different if he's just looking straight ahead and, getting ready to run the route. He is literally staring right at the football, and he's on the line too. He's on the end. It's not like he's on the outside.
Oh, he's really
just, yeah. To me, it's like, how do you not realize you were that far off sides? And it's not like, it was a delayed flag and, all this, it happened as soon as it snapped. And it wasn't just one ref that threw the flag, two refs threw the flag. Back judge and side judge both threw it. And so I get it. Yeah, you're mad the way that game ends because it does rob us of such an incredible heads-up play by Travis Kelce.
That's up there with like the immaculate catch. Like that's,
yeah. I mean,
that like it will not happen that way again.
Yeah, I mean, for his, and it goes back to what you said, the IQ. He sees that, okay, there's no one over there. He's way behind me, and to have that kind of confidence to go, perfect spiral, right as a defender's jumping up. I mean, it was an incredible play, and it sucks as football fans that we get robbed of that not being, the official play. But also, Kadarius Toney has to own what happened, because
he's going to, and go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I mean, because growing up as a wide receiver, the first thing you do when you come up to the line is point and make sure with that ref you are good. And he did sort of, but not to the extent that you were supposed to. He didn't come set. He points, immediately looks down at the football and takes a half step forward, because you didn't see the ref give him a thumbs up, thumbs back, or anything, because he had no opportunity to do it, because he points and immediately looks down at the football and resets himself with a good body.
It's just
half body. And it really is.
The football world is sad. And I had in 10 minutes talking about referees, which is stupid. And Kadarius Toney, who should be cut. This guy's dumb. He's terrible at the game of football, of what he's doing. He just doesn't. He's not good. I was so wrong about Kadarius, and I'm mad about it. We only have like 2 minutes left because I gotta hit the road. But I'm very curious. And also, Greg in the chat, thanks for hanging with us today. He did mention some of the rules are geared towards the defense, because that's why they'll call the offsides a little quicker and stuff like that, because it's an offensive game. This year, the offense has been real bad, man. I mean, real bad. But yeah, he also said he wasn't a receiver, and he also knew to check with the ref. Sunday night was the Eagles, Cowboys, and Dallas dominated this game. Did not see that coming. 33-13. Dak Prescott continues to look like an MVP candidate. I'm just saying it. And they were able to run the ball while the Eagles just really could not get anything going. Big takeaway.
That Eagles defense is night and day worse than it was last year. It's shockingly bad how bad it is, because the one aspect I think we both thought was going to be the problem was going to be up the middle with the linebackers and safety play. But the problem has come that you are a bottom 5 pass defense in the NFL with Darius Slay and James Bradbury, and adding Kevin Byard to that defense, and you still have the same guys up front. You throw in Jalen Carter, and you still have Reddick and Fletcher Cox and Nolan Smith, these guys up front, and your passing defense is so bad right now. It's
crazy.
Yeah, and Jalen Hurts doesn't look healthy is another big problem.
The amount of times he runs, gets pushed in the pile, I mean, he's probably not healthy. And I think that's a big reason why you see so many quarterbacks hurt is these guys are doing more athletically than they ever have in the past. And we're seeing the breakdown over time with some of these guys. It's just, I mean, and that's why we're seeing a game that was 3-0.
But as of right now, I was completely wrong about the Cowboys this year. And I think the 49ers and the Cowboys are clearly the two best teams in the NFL right now.
What year is this?
But the biggest question will be, can they get it done in the playoffs? And until they can, there's still going to be that, inkling of doubt from most people going, okay, you're able to win some regular season games. Now go out and do it in the playoffs. But now, at least for them, they're not going to have to start it out on the road as of right now.
Yeah, and get a home game and the potential for a Cowboys 49ers matchup in the Super Bowl late in the playoffs. NFL's got to be drooling at that idea with those two fan bases, those big markets. Hey, Tubby, are you aware of our end of year sale that we have for the W Sports Podcast?
What's that?
What is it? Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So as of right now, we have a sale going on. You can support the podcast the best way possible with a free subscription.
What?
What do you get with a subscription? You get to join us every single week on the W Sports Podcast, whether it's on YouTube, Instagram, social media, wherever that is going to be. Search the W Sports Podcast. You can subscribe for free. There's no contract, no money exchange. We don't need your credit card info. We just need your support. And you all to join us every single week by downloading the podcast and joining in the chat. We just want to say thank you guys so much. This is a ton of fun to do. And we got like a couple new subscribers this last week, like 10 or something like that. So just thank you guys so much for joining. This is what we do. This is so much fun. So that's it. I mean, how good of a deal is that, Tubby?
I mean, sounds like a pretty good darn deal.
It's a pretty good darn deal.
And then you can say, we're 16 away. You could be part of that final push to get us to 200 subscribers on YouTube. So why wouldn't you want to be part of that and become part of the Dub Squad?
Be part of the Dub Squad. It's great. I mean, we're doing things. We're predicting where transfer portals are going accurately. We're already aware of what it takes to become the greatest of all time. We figured out the formula that people have been thinking about for years. We've got it. It's all here at the W Sports Podcast.
And then in just a few short months, it's going to be draft season.
Draft season.
And your boys are already building the scouting reports for the draft. So, I mean,
it's going to be good. Well, guys, we hope you all have a great holiday season. Don't stay too busy, but if you do find yourself on the road for any road trips early on, make sure you bring the W Podcast with you. Till then, I guess we'll see you all next week.
See ya.
See ya.